Support for Arkansas Week provided by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, the Arkansas Times, and Little Rock Public Radio.
And welcome to Arkansas Week. I'm Dawn Scott. Thanks for being here. A new documentary tells the story of Arkansas placing statues of civil rights leader Daisy Bates and singer Johnny Cash in the U.S. Capitol. I'll talk with the filmmaker about that in just a bit. But we begin the program this week talking about PayCheck. Not the kind of paycheck that we receive from maybe the work that we do, but something very unique. It's aimed at providing support for Arkansas children who've been traumatized by crime. The University of Arkansas's Criminal Justice Institute created this initiative called Protecting Arkansas Youth Check, or PayCheck. Creators are hoping that partnerships between law enforcement and schools will be the key to helping these kids. And joining me now is the Institute Director, Dr. Cheryl May, for a deeper conversation on how this program works. And thanks so much for being here. I have so many questions.
Thank you for having me. This is a very important program, and I greatly appreciate the interest.
Well,
and the ability to talk about it.
Yeah, we appreciate your time here. And let's just get started by what PayCheck is. I've read a bit about it, and
Sure.
I'm very fascinated.
Sure. If I may, I'm going to put it in a little bit more of a broader context.
Sure.
And kind of give you a little bit of history about how we got to the PayCheck program, because I think that's really important. Several years ago, we started a program that focuses on the relationship between law enforcement and children and family services. And that program is called Drug Endangered Children, Maltreatment and Drug Endangered Children. Kids are at risk of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and mostly neglect because they live in homes where there are illicit drug activities. We've had issues in our state with meth, variety of other drugs, opioids, and most people don't understand that more kids in this country die from neglect than they do from physical abuse every year. And so what we wanted to do was identify who these children are and then be able to provide some services so that it's like what we call an early intervention program. So we've set up a program in 7 counties around the state, and it's focused on the communication between law enforcement and children and family services. A really critical case in all of this would be like the Gabriel Fernandez case. It was a kid in California about a decade or so ago who had been seen by law enforcement, who had been seen repeatedly by children and family services, but yet he was being abused. And nobody was able to make the connection. But the school
Saw signs.
Saw signs because who's our primary mandated reporters that turn in a lot of these to the hotline? It's our school personnel. And so the school kept trying to bring it to attention. To make a long story short, unfortunately, Gabriel was murdered. And it was just a case that brought to light how critically important that all of these entities and their collaboration. You know, I've worked with law enforcement for a very long time, and one thing I do know is that they're very focused on helping kids, and obviously so is DCFS. So why not try to bring them together? And it was in the process of doing this program that the whole idea of wrapping in our schools became critically important. And the reason why that was so important was because there was a program out in West Virginia that's called Handle with Care.
So it originated there.
It originated in West Virginia. And it goes back years and years and years, decades. And the primary purpose of the Handle with Care program was to identify kids that are traumatized outside of school. They end up going to school after being traumatized. The school doesn't know, is not aware. The kid will act out, they'll have behavioral issues, might not have homework done, and then it can start the whole discipline program. So we decided as part of our maltreatment and drug endangered children program that we would do the handle with care. But what we soon realized was that there's only 2 states in the country that cannot call it handle with care. And the reason why we can't call it handle with care is because we have in our schools a handle with care program that's focused on restraints.
Oh, I
and we
see.
didn't want to get the two.
Confused.
And so that's where the name PayCheck, and it was actually initiated and brought about through an initiative of these 7 counties, and primarily White County.
Okay.
That came up with the name.
And this is specifically focused toward children who've experienced trauma related to crime, or could it be related also to drugs or abuse?
Oh, it can be related to just about anything. One of the key things that we focus on, and if you like, I can talk about the requirements of the program and why they're so important, is the overall fact that kids can be traumatized in a variety of different ways. And like I said earlier, oftentimes they're traumatized and it's outside of school. We see domestic violence, law enforcement is a great example. Law enforcement's called to homes all the time for domestic violence. And oftentimes there are kids that are in those homes. And they go back to school, nobody knows. I think we can easily make the case that these kids have been traumatized. And so the idea is if the school is alerted, then they can keep an eye on the kid. The last thing that you want to do is further traumatize them by asking them a series of questions. Just keep an eye on them.
Yeah. Have them on your radar.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't punish them because, you know, you think about it and the child will go to school for 8 hours, 7 hours a day, and the teachers and educators are the ones who see them much more than their parents,
correct.
more than law enforcement, more than a DCFS employee or worker. And you're right, they might act out, and then the school or teacher may punish,
Yes.
which is the worst thing that could happen.
Right. And then there could be a history. And so we see that escalation of discipline that can be extremely harmful to our kids. So the idea is if they're alerted early enough and the child acts out, then the school knows, hey, we need to get them hooked up with the counselor. You know, maybe there are some mental health resources that either the child or other resources that the family might be able to benefit from.
Well, let me ask this then. How would the school know? This program I know is working to bring information to all parties that need to know. So is it a law enforcement that would file a report so that the school might be notified?
Yes.
Tell us how that works.
Yes, let's take the case of domestic violence. One of the requirements that we have for law enforcement is that they have to adopt this policy called Safeguarding Children of Arrested Parents.
Okay.
Because if they go in a home and they arrest a parent, it's going to traumatize that child.
Sure.
And we teach them how to, and this policy acknowledges the importance of limiting the amount of trauma that the child is exposed to. And so they would know that in a domestic violence situation where there's either toys around or there's an actual child present, that they need to go to our electronic portal.
Okay.
They identify a person that is going to be emailed at the school, a point of contact at the school, and that the school will then take that information. It'll go to the people who need to know.
Okay.
And then those folks in law enforcement and those folks at the school get training on how to recognize a kid being traumatized, the importance of that child being traumatized, and why it's important not to re-traumatize them.
Well, I read that training did roll out in October for the program. Do
Yes, ma'am.
all districts in the state take part in this, or only a small number at this time?
We've
Okay.
only got a small number. Right now, we're about 35 school districts.
Okay.
It's important that the school district and the law enforcement agency has to be engaged.
Okay.
And because most people who know me, know that I'm very passionate about a number of things, and particularly things that involve our kids.
Sure.
And that it's really important that we can do it, but let's do it the right way, so that we don't have any kids falling through the cracks, and we can actually get them to where they need to be.
Is
in
it
this whole
available
process.
for all districts?
Yes, we rolled it out.
Okay.
Instead of it being just within the 7 agencies of the
Okay.
Maltreatment and Drug Endangered Children program, in October we rolled it out statewide.
Okay, who funds the program?
It's funded by our state funding at the Criminal Justice Institute.
Okay, very interesting. Is there, do you think, or has there been, I guess, a disconnect, do you think, between law enforcement thinking first, oh, let's contact a school, let's contact a teacher? It's sort of like different entities, and it's not top of mind, I think, probably. Yeah. I mean, for law enforcement, it's top of mind is safety, right?
Sure.
Protect all the people in this environment.
Absolutely.
When I arrive on the scene.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I don't want what I'm about to say to be portrayed negatively for law enforcement, but sometimes opening their mind and their perception to how certain things they can do can impact kids in a negative way is really important. So that's why that training and then having that policy, probably the biggest issue that we have in getting new schools implemented is either law enforcement or schools wanting to do the extra work.
I see.
To get it done.
Well, what does the work entail?
Well,
Like
it's
training?
adopting the policy and being able to take the training, and the training is online. So we try to make it as easy as possible. We give them an extended period of time within which they can accomplish this. And so, we understand that, law enforcement agencies and schools can be understaffed. And,
Sure, and don't
just
have
by
enough time.
asking them to do additional work can create a hardship
But it
for
seems
them.
that this has been the critical missing piece for such a long time. It
Yes,
seems
ma'am.
like such common sense as sitting here talking about it, but it hasn't really been in place.
Yeah.
It has been the kids go to school. If they're a discipline problem, they get in trouble. Then they go home, but then they're left at home and, to suffer whatever it is that they're facing.
Yep.
And you're right. I mean, it's a key piece
Yes, ma'am.
of this puzzle. Tell me, the LEARNS Act from earlier this year, our governor's LEARNS Act, the State Department of Education mentioned this was a key component of that and keeping children safe.
Yeah, well, I think what they were referring to is the school safety component of the LEARNS Act. I had the enormous honor of chairing Governor Hutchinson's school safety commissions in 2018, and then 2022 when Uvalde happened was the last one. And the LEARNS Act took some of the legislation that we had crafted because of needs that we saw. But there's a connection in trying to prevent school shooters here as well, and I think that it's important that we talk about it. The gurus on school safety and on shooters are the U.S. Secret Service. And they did a couple of studies that looked at the shooters. And what they found were that there were some common elements in all of those shooters. They had been grieved in some way. They had been bullied in person. They had either mental health or substance abuse issues themselves. But the one key thing that I honed in on and connected these two initiatives together was the idea that they were negative factors at home. And some of those negative factors were, of course, substance abuse in the home, domestic violence, parental incarceration. Exactly right. And so I see this as a way for us to reduce the number of kids that could possibly experience some of those triggers for school violence.
School violence. Dr. Cheryl May, we are out of time, but we thank you so much for being here to discuss the PayCheck program, something I'm sure we'll be hearing much more about in the coming weeks and months. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much again for having me.
Much more of Arkansas Week coming up after a quick break.